Hello children, in the previous class we discussed force on a current carrying conductor, right? We said that when a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, it experiences a magnetic force and direction of the force is given by Fleming's left hand rule, if you remember, right? Now, there was a physicist, his name was Michael Faraday, and then he wanted to reverse the law. He said that if we move a magnet, right, and we place it near a coil, then will the coil have a current? Or he said, if we move a conductor near a magnet, then will it have a current? This was the subject of his study. He was reversing the fact that we discussed earlier, that when we place a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field, it experiences a magnetic force, right? Now he wanted to study whether a moving conductor in a magnetic field will produce a current, and he conducted a simple experiment. The experiment was set up was like this. He took a coil, let's say he took a solenoid for example. He took a solenoid like this. Remember, we have not connected any battery out here. This is solenoid. Here you have connected galvanometer. Now this galvanometer is a very sensitive device. It's a very sensitive device, and then it has a scale you must have seen in the lab, and it has a pointer. This is 0 up to galvanometer, and then it has a pointer. The work of this galvanometer G is to detect any current. Even if slightest of current is flowing in a circuit, it is a very sensitive device. Even if a very small current is flowing through a conductor, it can easily detect the current, right? So he took a coil like this, like a solenoid. He connected it to a galvanometer, not a meter, galvanometer. Galvanometer is a more sensitive instrument. A galvanometer may not be able to detect very small currents, but galvanometer will be able to detect very small current. Ammeter is not able to detect very small currents, right? And then he did like this. He placed a bar magnet near the coil. And then what he did was, he began moving the bar magnet like this. He found, let's say for example, the north pole is coming toward the coil and the magnet is moving now. He found that when the magnet started moving, instantly a deflection was seen in the galvanometer. Initially the galvanometer was something like this. His pointer was at 0. It was at 0 like this. But when he started moving the magnet towards the solenoid, he found that it was no longer pointing towards 0, it was pointing at some value like this. Suppose it was deflecting to the right. Suppose the pointer was deflecting to the right. He found that the faster he came and the closer he came, the more was the deflection. Then what he did? He began taking the north pole away. Initially he was bringing the magnet like this, and now he started taking it away like this. When he began taking away the magnet, then also he found there was a deflection. But in this case, the deflection was not to the right. In this case, this is 0. In this case, the deflection was to the left. So he concluded that when we are moving a magnet near a coil, then the coil is developing a current. This current is not because of any battery actually. We have not connected any battery, you can see, but this current is being induced. It is being caused by the movement of the magnet. Let us in fact see what is happening in this process. You all know that magnetic field lines that come out of the North Pole, They come out of this north pole. As we are coming closer towards the coil, then you can see more and more what? Lines will pass through the coil. Let me demonstrate it by using, now I will make a small demonstration to make you understand this. Suppose this is a coil and this is the magnet. The torch of the magnet is like north pole, right? So I am bringing, see, when the torch is away from this book, the amount of light falling is what? Negligible. But as I come closer, you can see that more and more light is falling. And when I am going away, then the amount of light is decreasing. Let's see once again. When I am going closer, then more light is falling. A similar conclusion can be drawn here. When the north pole is going closer, I can compare the light coming out of the torch like the field lines. When the magnet comes closer, then more lines will be passing through the book. When it's going away, then less number of lines will be passing through the book. In both the cases, we are changing actually the number of lines which are passing through the given coil or the given surface. And actually this is what is causing the current in the circuit. This phenomenon is extensively studied by Michael Faraday. And Michael Faraday actually called this phenomenon as electromagnetic induction. So what is electromagnetic induction, children? When number of magnetic field lines passing through a coil changes, then it induces a current. What it does? It induces a current. This phenomenon is known as electromagnetic induction. In short, we call it what? EMI. And you know, there can be no current until and unless we produce what? A potential difference, right? We are producing this potential difference without applying a battery. So the potential difference produced in a coil by change of magnetic lines of force passing through it is called electromagnetic EMF. Clear? Okay? Is called electromagnetic induction. Electromagnetic induction. So children, here we defined what is EMI or electromagnetic induction. We said when a number of magnetic field lines passing through a coil changes, a potential difference is produced in the coil. This is what is happening. When I am taking the north pole towards, you can see as the magnet is coming closer to the coil, you can imagine my fingers like coil, I am bringing it what? Closer towards the coil, right? So when I bring it closer towards the coil, then what is happening? A current is being seen. And number of lines passing is what? Increasing. As I am taking it away, then also a current is being produced. So you can see that whether I am taking it towards or whether I am taking it away, in both cases, the number of lines passing through the coil is changing. And this is what is causing the EMF, right? So this phenomenon is called electromagnetic induction. So it produces a current also, right? So here we will be writing current induced when number of magnetic field lines current induced when number of magnetic field lines changes through a coil is called electromagnetic current. Electromagnetic current. And you can see here that current will not have a fixed direction. Current will change by changing the direction of the applied magnetic field. Here north pole is going towards, the field lines are increasing, north pole is going away, field lines are decreasing. Clear? Now it is not necessary that I have to move the what? Magnet only. I can move the coil also. I can move the coil also. In both the cases, the basic idea is to change the number of lines which are passing through the coil. Again, there is another interesting experiment. If I do not have a permanent magnet, I can use the same experiment with a pair of coils. Let's imagine I have an insulated long frame. On this insulated long frame, what I'll do is I'll take one solenoid here, I'll wind up here one solenoid, right, and I'll connect it to a source of current. Now what will happen? When the current will pass through the solenoid, it will produce a magnetic field, and then I'll place another coil nearby. I'll have another coil here. In this coil, I will not connect any battery, I will just connect a galvanometer. Right? We see that when the current flows here, there is a deflection in the galvanometer. So what happens is, when I close the key, then current starts increasing. Like you are trying to run a race, you cannot suddenly take your peak speed. What you do? You accelerate, increase your speed, and after some time you become what? You maintain a constant speed. Same thing. When I close the key, then the current increases. When the current will increase, then it produces a stronger magnetic field. When it produces a stronger magnetic field, more lines will be produced, right? And these lines will be picked up by the what? Other coil. When the lines will change here, then lines will change here also. And when the lines will change here, then electromagnetic induction will take place. When electromagnetic induction will take place, we will see a current. So this current increases. After some time, it becomes maximum. When it becomes maximum, it's called steady current. What current? Steady current. And when current is steady, it does not change. So DC, what happens? DC increases, and after some time it becomes constant. So when current becomes constant, then the number of lines will also become here constant. When number of lines will become constant, then current what? Stops. And again, when I switch off the circuit, then current starts decreasing. Suddenly current does not become zero. It starts decreasing, and when it starts decreasing, we will again see there is a deflection in the galvanometer. Clear? So, in a nutshell, we can say that the sole idea is to change the number of magnetic field lines passing through a coil. And how will you generate magnetic field lines? For generating magnetic field lines, you require a magnet. So either you can use a permanent magnet like we have used here, or you can use what? An electromagnet like we have shown using two coils. Now one thing is very interesting in this experiment. As long as I am moving the magnet or I am moving the coil, in both the cases I am changing the number of lines passing through the coil. However, suppose I place the coil here and then I place the magnet here like this. This is the coil and this is the magnet, and both are stationary. Neither this is moving nor the magnet is moving. Then the number of lines passing through the coil will become what? Fixed, constant. And whenever the number of lines passing through a coil will become constant, there will be no current. So bear this in mind, that for having electromagnetic induction, when the number of lines passing through a coil changes, we will be able to have electromagnetic induction only as long as we are having a change in the magnetic field lines passing through a given coil. It is clear? Now, so question arises, when by moving a magnet or by moving a coil, or let us say in another word, when by changing the field lines passing the coil, we can produce a current, then what will be the direction of induced current? Okay, so we will be discussing direction of induced current. Now children, we will discuss what is direction of induced current. Actually children, direction of induced current is given by Fleming's right hand rule. Fleming's right hand rule. Remember, Fleming's left hand rule gives us the direction of force. Fleming's left hand rule gives the direction of force, but right hand rule gives the direction of induced current. Let's see what exactly the right hand rule. If we stretch the right hand thumb, the forefinger and the middle finger at right angle to each other, right? Such that motion of the conductor is given by the thumb. Motion of the conductor is given by the what? Thumb. Magnetic field is given by the forefinger. Remember children always, forefinger is the magnetic field in the left hand rule also and right hand rule also. Then middle finger gives the direction of the induced current. Okay, once again, we stretch the thumb, the forefinger and the middle finger at right angle to each other such that direction of motion is given by the thumb, direction of forefinger gives direction of the magnetic field, then induced current is given by the what? Middle finger. So, Fleming's right hand rule says, if we stretch right hand thumb, make sure you're copying all the notes, right hand thumb, forefinger and middle finger at right angle to each other. Right angle to each other, so that thumb gives direction of motion, thumb gives direction of motion, then forefinger gives direction of forefinger gives direction of magnetic field, right? Then middle finger gives direction of the induced current. Then middle finger gives direction of induced current. So this is Fleming's right hand rule. Once again, we stretch the right hand thumb, the forefinger and middle finger at right angle to each other such that direction of motion is given by the thumb, direction of magnetic field is given by the forefinger, then induced current is given by the middle finger. Okay, let's see a typical case. Suppose I have north pole out here and south pole out here. Poles cannot be separated. We assume that these are poles of a horseshoe magnet like this. Okay. Now imagine this situation. This is north pole and this is south pole. And then here I have got a coil. This is a coil. Right? And suppose the coil is A, B, C, D. Imagine a situation in which AB is moving up and CD is moving down. We have a coil. This is AB, BC, CD and this is DA. Right? I'm moving like this. This is clockwise now. Suppose AB is moving up like this, then CD will be going down. Now, let's see what will be direction of induced current in AB and CD. How will you do? You will be using right hand rule. This is the direction of motion. This is the what? Field. This is the current. So children, when I look at this is actually what? Look at this. AB is moving up. So how will you show? This is up. It's coming up like this. Like this. Clear? So this is coming up. This is the direction of motion of AB. Now current, magnetic field is given by the forefinger, north to south, is going like this. So this is the current, no? You can see all three at right angle. Once again, AB is moving up. This is field, right? So how is the current? See, my finger is going from A to B. So this will be direction of the current. Now current will travel from B to C. What will be direction of magnetic field induced current in CD? AB is moving up, so CD is going over inside. So we can modify it actually. See, this is how it is going. See carefully. CD is going inside. My thumb is inside. Magnetic field is from north to south. So current is down. That means current will be from C to D. So I hope you have understood the concept. Current in AB will be from A to B and CD will be from C to D. Right? Direction of induced current is very easily given by using the right hand rule. It's a beautiful law. We can imagine another situation. Suppose I have a situation in which I have magnetic field which is going inside. Suppose this is the magnetic field. Right? This is the direction of magnetic field. The field is up. And then here I have rails I have. Let's see another diagram. Same direction of magnetic field, I suppose I take. This direction of magnetic field. And then there are two rails here, like the railway track. And here I'll put a galvanometer. Right? This is like a railway track. This is how the magnetic field is going. And here I place a wire. And I move the wire this side, for example. This is a wire AB, C, and this is D. Can you imagine? This is the direction of magnetic field that I am applying. And then there is a track. The track is closed this side. This is a track actually, very long track, like a railway track. Then I put a wire and I start sliding the wire. So the wire is moving in this magnetic field. Then clearly, according to the law of electromagnetic induction, there should be a current flowing through the wire. And I want to know what will be the direction of the magnetic, what will be the direction of the induced current in wire AB. Again, I am going to use which rule? Right hand rule. This is the direction of motion. This is how the wire is moving, right? This is the sense. Now this is the magnetic field. So the current will be from where? From A to B. Alright, so if you have to determine any direction of current, you can easily determine by using Fleming's right hand rule. Okay? Now, we sum up our discussion by saying therefore that whenever a conductor will move in a magnetic field, there will be a current. And this current will be maximum, remember, when the conductor is moving at right angle to the magnetic field. Very important point to note. Induced current is maximum. Induced current is maximum when conductor moves perpendicular to magnetic field. So this should be kept in mind. When the conductor is moving perpendicular to the magnetic field, then induced current is maximum. Okay? Start. So children, we have learnt in the conventional sense that a battery is required for producing current, right? Or for producing a potential difference. But here we are finding a very interesting what? Phenomenon we came across, that when you move a magnet in a magnetic field, that you can generate what? Current and potential difference. Now this concept is very important. Whenever electricity is generated at a commercial scale, for small applications we can run it on what? Battery. But when you are using a huge amount of electricity, like everybody requires electricity, this cannot be catered by using batteries. So for this we use generators, and every generator in the world, in fact, is generally based on the concept of electromagnetic induction. Okay. Now in the current syllabus they have removed electric generator, but just for the knowledge I will be discussing how exactly we generate electricity by using electromagnetic induction. The device is called electric generator, or in fact more specifically we call it AC dynamo. Okay, let's see this. Alright children, this is a diagram of electric generator. More specifically we call it what? AC generator. Now see, what is an AC generator? It is a coil ABCD having very large number of turns, and then you can see the coil is placed between the poles of a permanent magnet, and preferably it is a horseshoe magnet, right, like this. These are the poles, this is north pole and this south pole, and here inside you are placing the coil. ABCD is a coil. This is copper coil. And then you can see the two ends of the copper coil wire. Here actually we have a shaft, is like a long rod, and then there are two rings, one ring is here, the other ring is here, and the two rings are connected to B1 and B2. B1 and B2 are brushes, and R1 and R2 are rings. So I'll write here rings, and B1 and B2 are in fact these are brushes. These brushes actually pressed against the two rings, they are touching the two rings, right? Now what happens is, and you can see the brush is again connected to a load and an emitter. Load is basically the appliance where I am going to use this current which is generated. Now how it works? Very easy. We will rotate the coil. What will you do? We rotate the coil. Now for rotating the coil, you can use what? Water falling from height, like we have hydroelectric power plants, or if you are using steam for this in thermal power plant, you can have out here turbines, and then you hit the turbines with the jets of steam and then starts what? Rotating. Either way, if you have a windmill, so wind is used for rotating the coil. So the important thing is that I am going to rotate the coil in the magnetic field, and the magnetic field is being provided by the what? The poles of the magnet, right? Now let's see, imagine a situation in which AB is coming up and CD is going inside. It's coming out and CD is going inside, like I gave you example short while ago. Now as AB and CD, they are moving perpendicular to the magnetic field, because magnetic field will be directed like this from north pole to the south pole. As AB and CD, like I said earlier, are rotating magnetic field perpendicular to the magnetic field, so they will have maximum induced current. Now what will be direction of current in AB? Direction of current in AB is, if I use the right hand rule, AB is moving outside, this is the field, right? So you can see current is from what? Let's align it properly. This is the field, this is the direction of motion, this is the field. So current is where? Up. So current in AB is what? Up. It's going to go clockwise. This current will pass through BC. If I use right hand rule on CD, we'll see this current is coming down. Until the circuit is completed, you can see, right? Now this is through one turn. If I put large number of turns, then all the current, suppose I put one more turn out here, then again there will be current. So you can see that all these currents will be what? Adding up. All these currents will be adding up, and all together they will produce a large amount of current. So this is how current is being generated. Now an interesting part of this, that when this coil is rotating, so AB comes up and completes half the cycle. After completing half the cycle, AB will come this side and CD will come this side. Now CD will come up and AB will go inside. Means after half the revolution, the position will be something like this. This will become CD and this will become AB. So now this will come out and this will go inside. So current will be reversed. What will happen? Current will be reversed. That's very interesting. During the first half cycle, the current will come from B2, it will go into B1. Right? This is how the current is coming out, you can see. During the remaining half cycle, the direction of current will be reversed. Now the current will flow like this. Clear? So during first half cycle, current is flowing from A to B to C to D. Current flows along ABCD. Clear? And during remaining half cycle, current flows along DCBA, changes the direction, DCBA. Now this is the most interesting aspect of it. During half the cycle, current will travel from A to B to C to D, and in the remaining half cycle, when the sides will be interchanged, it will flow from D to C to B to A. Now this is a very special feature of this current. We find half cycle current is like this, the remaining half cycle current is like this. If you plot this current comes something like this, This is current I and this is time T. This is half cycle and this is full cycle. So you can see during half cycle, current is increasing from 0 to maximum, and during remaining half cycle, current is again increasing in opposite direction from 0 to maximum, again becoming 0. So in one complete cycle of the coil, the current will be changing twice, right? Now current travels from the coil and comes to the rings, and from rings, if the current is coming to ring R1, then brush B1 is touching the ring, so it will take the current outside. This current will be what? Anti-clockwise. If it is coming to ring R2, from R2 it will go to B2 and again it will be complete in circuit. So if the current is clockwise, it will come out of which brush? B2. And if the current is anti-clockwise, it will come out of brush B1, right? So since this current is changing its magnitude and direction with time, we call it alternating current. What do you call it? Alternating current. So remember, in one complete cycle, the current changes twice. First, it is positive, then it is negative. During half cycle again, it will be positive, again it will be negative, right? That means, in 1 second, if the coil is making 50 turns, then current is changing how many times? 100 times. Because in one complete cycle, the current will change twice, right? In one complete cycle, the current will be changing twice. So Like in India, we use coils which are changing 50, which having 50 revolutions in a second. That means in 1 second, this current is going to change how many times? 100 times, right? Here we are producing a current which is changing with time, and we call it what current? Alternating current. In short, we call it AC. So if they ask in the exam, what source will produce AC current? Then what will you say? A coil rotating a magnetic field will produce alternating current. Now, what source will produce a DC current? DC current does not change with time, so we'll say a battery, right? So, a battery will produce DC, and then a rotating coil will produce what? AC. Okay, children? So, go through this video in detail and do it.